Micah stared at the box for what felt like hours, the city's distant hum seeping through the cracked window like an unwelcome intruder. His knees ached against the floorboards, but he couldn't move, couldn't process the void Landon had carved out so cleanly. They had planned it all, the proposal on the ferry to Bainbridge Island at sunset, the ring he'd saved for over 2 years of late-night coding sessions at his software job in South Lake Union. Micah had even rehearsed the words in the mirror that morning, his reflection smiling back with a hope he now despised. The apartment, once a cozy nest of mismatched furniture and framed photos from their road trip through the Oregon coast, now mocked him with its emptiness. Landon's running shoes sat abandoned by the door, laces untied like loose ends he hadn't bothered to knot. Micah's chest tightened, a sob clawing its way up, but he swallowed it down. He was 32, no 28, he corrected himself bitterly, and he refused to shatter on the floor like some tragic character in an indie film. Slowly, he rose, the box snapping shut in his fist, and crossed to the kitchen counter where a half-empty bottle of Pinot Noir from their last date night waited. He poured a glass, the deep red liquid sloshing like blood, and sank onto the worn leather couch. Memories flooded in unbidden. Landon's laugh during their first hike in Discovery Park, the way his hand had intertwined with Micah's under the blanket at a midnight screening of some forgotten rom-com at the SIFF cinema. They met 3 years ago at a queer book club in Fremont, bonding over James Baldwin's essays and the shared ache of growing up gay in conservative pockets of the Midwest before escaping to the Pacific Northwest. Landon, with his easy charm and architect's eye for detail, had drawn Micah out of his shell, teaching him to trust in the quiet beauty of rainy mornings spent tangled in sheets. But lately, the cracks had spiderwebbed. Landon's late nights at the firm, excuses about deadlines that stretched into dawns. The way he'd pull away during intimate moments, his eyes distant, as if sketching blueprints in his mind that didn't include Micah. Last week, over takeout pho from that hole in the wall on University Way, Micah had broached it gently. "Are we okay?" Landon's smile had been too quick, too rehearsed. "Of course, just stressed." Micah had believed him because what else could he do? Love like theirs was supposed to weather storms. Now, alone with the wine turning sour on his tongue, Micah scrolled through his phone, thumb hovering over Landon's contact. The last text was from this morning. "Can't wait for tonight. Love you." A lie, it seemed, or perhaps the truth had simply evaporated. He typed out a message. Why? Then deleted it. What answer could mend this? Instead, he opened Instagram, the glow illuminating his tear-streaked face. Couples in flannel at Pike Place Market. Rainbow flags fluttering from balconies during Pride. Everyone else's life marching on, vibrant and unbroken. The clock ticked past midnight when exhaustion finally claimed him, curled on the couch with the ring box clutched to his chest. Dreams came in fragments. Landon's face dissolving into fog over Puget Sound, a hand reaching but finding only water. He woke to gray dawn light, the rain pattering insistently against the pane. Coffee brewed automatically, its bitter aroma a small anchor. Micah showered, the hot water scalding his skin, as if he could wash away the residue of betrayal. Dressed in his usual uniform, jeans, a soft gray Henley, boots scuffed from city walks. He grabbed his laptop bag and headed out, the door locking with a finality that echoed the night before. The bus to South Lake Union was crowded with commuters, techies nursing lattes from Starbucks, their earbuds a barrier against the world. Micah leaned against the window, watching the Space Needle pierce the low clouds like a forgotten promise. His job at the startup, developing apps for mental health tracking, felt absurdly ironic today. How could he code resilience when his own foundation had crumbled? By noon, buried in lines of JavaScript, he managed a fragile focus, but every notification jolted him, heart racing at the phantom buzz of Landon's name. Lunch was a solitary sandwich from the food truck row, eaten on a bench overlooking Lake Union. Houseboats bobbed gently, their decks strung with fairy lights even in daylight. An older couple strolled by, hands linked, their easy affection a knife twist. Micah's phone vibrated then, not Landon, but his best friend Theo, a barista and aspiring playwright from their college days at UW. Heard from him? The text read. Micah hesitated, then typed, "He left. For good." Theo's reply was immediate. "On my way. Don't move." 20 minutes later, Theo arrived, all wild curls and oversized scarf, enveloping Micah in a hug that smelled of espresso and vanilla. They walked the waterfront in silence at first, the chill wind off the water carrying the salt of distant ocean. Theo didn't pry, just listened as the words tumbled out. The proposal plans, the slammed door, the ring now hidden in a drawer. "He's an idiot," Theo said finally, voice fierce. "And you're not broken, Micah. You're just paused." They ended up at Theo's favorite dive bar, the Rusty Anchor, tucked in Belltown with its sticky floors and jukebox crooning old Springsteen. Over cheap IPAs, Theo shared stories of his own heartbreak, a musician ex who ghosted after a tour, and slowly, the weight in Micah's chest eased, just a fraction. Laughter crept in, tentative, as they debated the merits of bad karaoke. For the first time since the night before, Micah felt the stirrings of something like possibility, faint as the sun breaking through clouds. But as they parted ways under the neon glow of a tattoo parlor, Micah's phone lit up with a photo from an unknown number. Landon, arm around a stranger at a bar downtown, timestamped last night. The caption, "Moving on." Micah's stomach lurched, the beer turning to acid. He deleted it without responding, but the image burned behind his eyelids. Back home, the apartment loomed larger, emptier. He pulled out the ring again, turning it in the lamplight, its facets catching like tiny accusations. Sleep evaded him that night, the rain a relentless drumbeat. By morning, resolve hardened. He called in sick to work, then messaged his landlord about breaking the lease early. Packing began in earnest, books into boxes, clothes folded with mechanical precision. Amid the chaos, he found a photo booth strip from their anniversary, for poses of goofy grins and stolen kisses. He traced Landon's jawline with a fingertip, whispering, "Goodbye," before tucking it away. The moving truck arrived at dusk, Theo helping load the last lamp. As Micah locked the door one final time, the hallway light flickered, casting long shadows. Seattle's pulse thrummed below, indifferent to his unraveling. He drove south toward West Seattle to a sublet Theo had found. A small studio overlooking Alki Beach, waves whispering secrets to the shore. Unpacking that night, with the ocean's murmur as company, Micah allowed the tears to come freely, a release long overdue. Days blurred into a rhythm of survival. Morning runs along the beach, where joggers nodded in solidarity. Afternoons at a co-working space in Georgetown, forcing code into coherence. Evenings lost in podcasts about queer icons, their stories a bomb. Theo dragged him to open mic nights at cafes in Ballard, where poetry about lost loves mirrored his own unspoken verses. One night, amid the haze of candlelight and acoustic guitar, Micah caught a stranger's gaze across the room. A man with warm brown skin and a gentle smile, sketching in a notebook. Their eyes met briefly, a spark in the dimness, but Micah looked away, not ready for the flame. Weeks passed, the wound scabbing over but itching beneath. Landon reached out once, a voicemail left at 2 a.m. "I miss you. Can we talk?" Micah listened in the dark, heart pounding, then erased it without reply. The ring sold to a pawn shop on Aurora Avenue, the cash funding a tattoo on his ribcage. A compass rose, pointing true north. "For redirection," the artist had said, needle buzzing like a promise. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, leaves turning gold along the Burt Gilman Trail, when Micah first truly laughed again. Chasing Theo's dog through Elliott Bay Park, the lab's joy infectious. In that moment, wind tousling his hair, salt spray on his lips, he felt the first genuine pull toward tomorrow. Not healed, not whole, but willing. The city, with its fog-shrouded ferries and hidden gardens, seemed to whisper back, "Keep walking." Micah's new studio in West Seattle became a sanctuary of sorts, its walls papered with sketches from street artists at the Saturday market and shelves lined with dog-eared copies of Audre Lorde and Ocean Vuong. The rent was steep, but the view of the Olympics across the Sound grounded him, mountains standing sentinel against the horizon. Mornings started with yoga on the balcony, poses flowing like breath, chasing away the ghosts that lingered in his dreams. Work emails piled up, but he tackled them with a ferocity born of necessity, his app prototype gaining traction among beta testers who shared stories of their own quiet battles. Theo, ever the whirlwind, insisted on reinvention nights. Dinners of experimental tacos from food trucks parked along California Avenue, followed by walks to the lighthouse at Alki, its beams sweeping the dusk like a forgiving eye. "You're glowing a bit," Theo teased one evening, linking arms as they crunched over pebbles. "Don't tell me you're flirting with that barista at Zoka." Micah flushed, protesting, but the truth was a tentative yes. Javier, with his easy grin and stories of growing up Mexican-American in Yakima, had slipped him an extra shot of espresso with a wink. Small kindnesses building like bricks. Yet, shadows persisted. Grocery runs to Metropolitan Market unearthed triggers, a brand of olive oil Landon favored, or the indie folk playlist that autoplayed on Spotify, his ex's voice humming along in memory. Micah curated ruthlessly, swapping tracks for something rawer, like perfume genius crooning about desire's sharp edges. Social media was a minefield. He muted mutual friends, but glimpses slipped through. Landon's profile, updated with a new job title at a firm in Bellevue. Photos of him at networking events. Smile polished but eyes hollow. One rainy Tuesday, as thunder rumbled over the Sound, Micah's phone rang with his mother's number. Ellen, from their family home in Boise, Idaho, where rain was a rarity and acceptance had come late but fierce. "Sweetheart," she said, voice warm as fresh bread. Theo mentioned, "I'm so sorry." They talked for an hour, her words weaving comfort. Memories of Micah's childhood sketches, the pride flag she'd hung in the window after he came out at 16. "Hearts mend crooked sometimes," she murmured. "But they mend." Hanging up, Micah felt the ache soften, familial roots a steadying force. Emboldened, he ventured out more, volunteering at the Lambert House Youth Center in Capitol Hill, facilitating art workshops for queer teens navigating their worlds. Their honesty disarmed him. A shy kid named Riley drawing self-portraits with fractured mirrors, or Alex sharing poems about first crushes that echoed Micah's own fumbling youth. In their resilience, he found mirrors to his pain, and slowly purpose. "You're good at this," the coordinator, a no-nonsense woman named Dana, told him after a session. "Ever think about leading your own group?" The idea took root, blooming over coffee-fueled planning sessions. But life, as ever, had other scripts. It was at one such workshop, rain lashing the windows of the old Victorian building, that Elias entered. He was dropping off his younger brother, a lanky 16-year-old named Kai with neon blue streaks in his hair and a sketchpad under arm. Elias lingered, leaning against the doorframe, his presence quiet but magnetic, tall with warm olive skin, close-cropped black hair threaded with early silver, and eyes like polished amber that seemed to see straight through pretenses. Kai bounded over to Micah, chattering about his latest comic strip inspired by zine culture. Elias approached then, extending a hand calloused from carpentry work. "I'm Elias. Thanks for this. Kai's been talking about your sessions nonstop." His voice was low, laced with a faint East Coast lilt. From Philly originally, he'd later share. Micah shook his hand, noting the steady grip, the faint scent of sawdust and citrus. "Glad to help. He's talented." They chatted briefly, Elias's questions thoughtful, about the program's impact, the kids' stories. As parents filtered in for pickup, he hesitated. "Listen, if you're ever in need of custom shelves for supplies, I run a shop in Fremont." A business card exchanged, simple letterpress on thick stock. Elias Navarro, Woodworks. Micah pocketed it with a nod, pulse quickening inexplicably. That night, alone with a mug of chamomile, Micah turned the card over in his fingers, tracing the embossed lines. Sleep came easier, dreams shifting from loss to the curve of a lathe, hands shaping wood into something enduring. The following week brought a cascade. A promotion at work, leading a small team on the app's rollout, and an invite to Theo's birthday bash at a speakeasy in Pioneer Square. Dressed in a crisp white shirt and vest. His first foray into dressing up since the breakup. Micah arrived fashionably late, the crowd a mix of theater folk and baristas buzzing with gin and gossip. Theo pulled him into hugs, then thrust a cocktail into his hand. Manhattan, extra cherry, for bravery. Amid the jazz trio's sway, Micah spotted Elias across the room, laughing with a group near the bar. Kai had mentioned him in passing during workshop, but seeing him here, in slim black trousers and a Henley hugging his broad shoulders, felt like serendipity scripted by a benevolent director. Their eyes met again, and Elias wove through the throng, glass in hand. Fancy meeting you here, Theo's friend. Guilty. Micah smiled, genuine this time. Conversation flowed like the bourbon. Elias's move to Seattle 5 years back after his divorce. From a woman? He'd clarify later. A chapter closed with mutual respect. His passion for reclaimed wood furniture that told stories. Every piece has history, he said, gesturing animatedly. Scars make it stronger. Micah nodded, the metaphor landing soft but sure. They talked until last call, the speakeasy emptying around them, rain a soft veil outside. Theo shot Micah a knowing wink as he bundled into an Uber. Elias offered a ride home. My truck's just around the corner. And Micah accepted, the cab warm against the chill. Alki Beach stretched dark and vast as they pulled up, waves sighing against the pilings. Thanks, Micah said, unbuckling, for the lift and the talk. Elias's gaze held steady. Anytime, text me about those shelves. The door closed softly, but the invitation lingered, a bridge extended. Morning brought a text. Coffee? Fremont Sunday Market. Micah's reply was swift. Yes. The market buzzed with vendors hawking lavender soaps and vinyl records. The air crisp with apple cider and wood smoke. They wandered stalls, Elias haggling over a vintage toolbox. Micah sampling cheeses from a dairy stand. Stories unfurled. Elias's childhood in a row house neighborhood. Learning guitar from his abuela. Micah's escape from Boise's quiet bigotry to Seattle's embrace. Laughter came easy, a current pulling them closer. By the Ferris wheel at the end of the row, hands brushed, accidental then not. Elias's fingers laced with his, warm and sure. This okay? He murmured. Micah nodded, heart a steady drum. They rode up together, the city sprawling below like a map redrawn. That evening, over takeout ramen at Elias's workshop. A converted garage alive with the scent of varnish and possibility. Micah shared fragments of the breakup, words halting but honest. Elias listened without judgment. His hand on Micah's knee a quiet anchor. Sounds like he lost something rare, he said simply. No pity, just presence. When their lips met later, tentative then deepening, it felt like coming home. Not to a place, but to the self he'd almost forgotten. Weeks wove them tighter. Hikes in the Issaquah Alps, where ferns carpeted the trail like green secrets. Lazy Sundays at Elias's, carving spoons from cherry wood while Micah read aloud from graphic novels. Intimacy built in layers. Shared showers with steam-fogged mirrors. Whispered confessions in the dark. Elias's touch was reverent, mapping Micah's body like a blueprint for joy. You're beautiful, he'd breathe. And for the first time in months, Micah believed it, but doubt whispered at edges. A late-night scroll revealed Landon had liked a post from a mutual. Innocent, perhaps, but it stirred silt. Micah pushed it down, focusing on the now. Elias's laugh lines, the way he danced badly to Motown in the kitchen. Life felt fuller, colors brighter against the evergreen backdrop. Then, the first fracture. At a queer film fest in Capitol Hill, screening a doc on marriage equality, Micah spotted him. Landon, 2 rows back, with a date on his arm, a lithe blonde whose hand rested possessively on his thigh. The screen flickered with archival footage, cheers rising, but Micah's world narrowed to that touch. Elias, sensing the shift, squeezed his hand. You okay? Micah nodded. Lie thin as fog, but the night soured. Escape to the alley for air tasting of exhaust and regret. Home alone, the compass tattoo itched. Elias texted, Talk tomorrow? Relief flooded. Dawn brought honesty over breakfast burritos, the sighting, the residual sting. Elias pulled him close. I'm here. Not going anywhere. Trust, fragile as new wood, began to set. Yet, as autumn deepened, leaves carpeting the paths like fallen confessions, Micah wondered if scars ever truly fade, or if they simply guide us to better hands. Winter crept in on Seattle's shoulders, blanketing the city in a perpetual hush of mist and evergreen. Micah's days settled into a cadence that felt almost normal. Code reviews in the co-working space's sunlit atrium, where succulents thrived under grow lights. Afternoons at Lambert House, watching Kai's comics evolve into bold narratives of identity. Elias's presence wove through it all. A text mid-morning with a photo of a half-carved table leg, captioned "Thinking of you." Evenings at his Fremont shop, where Micah learned the patience of sanding edges smooth, the rhythm meditative. Their first holiday together was Hanukkah at Elias's family's modest craftsman in Shoreline, a gathering of aunts trading recipes in Spanglish, cousins debating Marvel theories over lax crisp with oil. Micah, nervous in his wool sweater and khakis, was enveloped immediately. Elias's mother, Rosa, pressing a menorah into his hands. "Light it with us," she said, her eyes crinkling like her son's. The candle's glow danced on faces marked by laughter lines and quiet strengths. Stories of immigration from Puerto Rico in the 70s filling the air. Kai, now a workshop regular, nudged Micah. "Told you they'd love you." Belonging tasted like Sufganiat dusted with powdered sugar, sweet and unexpected. New Year's Eve found them at a house party in Finney Ridge, fairy lights strung across exposed beams, a playlist pulsing with queer anthems from Troye Sivan to Chapel Roan. Champagne fizzed in flutes as midnight neared, Elias's arm around Micah's waist, countdown echoing. Their kiss at the stroke of 12 was soft, promising. The crowd's cheers a distant roar. "To us?" Elias whispered, forehead to forehead. Micah echoed it, the words a vow etched in frost-kissed air. But beneath the warmth, tremors stirred. Work intensified with the app's launch, deadlines blurring into all-nighters fueled by cold brew from Victrola. Elias noticed the strain, dark circles under Micah's eyes, the way he'd zone out during dinners at his favorite Thai spot on Queen Anne. "Talk to me," he'd urge, fingers tracing Micah's knuckles over pad CW. Micah confessed the pressure, the fear of failure mirroring old heartaches. Elias listened, then shared his own. The workshop's lean months post-divorce, nights questioning if solitude was safer. "We lean on each other," he said. "That's the wood and the glue." Spring unfurled tentatively, cherry blossoms dusting Capitol Hill like confetti. Micah's group at Lambert House grew, teens opening up about family rejections, first loves that burned bright and brief. One evening, after a particularly raw session where a kid named Jordan broke down over a parent's ultimatum, Micah lingered, offering tissues and silence. Elias picked him up outside, truck idling. Rough one. Over falafel wraps from a truck in the U District, Micah unloaded, the vulnerability stripping him bare. Elias's response was a quiet drive to Gasworks Park, where they lay on the hill, stars pricking the dome, his hand in Micah's hair. "You're changing lives. Don't forget yours matters too." Intimacy deepened in stolen moments. A weekend cabin rental in the Cascades, where snowmelt fed creeks and they hiked to a waterfall, stripping to swim in icy pools, bodies colliding in laughter and heat. Back in the city, passion ignited in the workshop after hours. Elias pressing Micah against a workbench, sawdust clinging like stars, their breaths sinking in the lamplight. "I love you," Elias murmured one night, post-climax, words hanging heavy. Micah froze, the phrase a ghost of Landon's echoes. Me too," he replied, but doubt coiled, a serpent in the garden. The betrayal came subtly, insidious as Seattle's summer smog. It started with a forgotten charger at Elias's, Micah borrowing one from work that synced to an old iCloud. Notifications pinged. Emails from Landon, forwarded from a shared account they'd never fully untangled. "Miss our talks. Coffee?" Micah deleted them, but the seed planted. Then, at a farmer's market in Wallingford, a vendor, Elias's ex-wife's cousin, mentioned offhand. Heard Elias is seeing someone. Good for him after that mess. The mess unfolded later, over wine at home. Elias's divorce hadn't been as amicable as painted. Accusations of emotional distance. A brief affair with a coworker that ended it. I was lost, Elias admitted, voice raw. But that's past. You're now. Micah nodded, but the words lodged like splinters. Trust, once sanded smooth, roughened. He pulled back incrementally, canceled a hike for work, declined a double date with Theo and his new beau. Elias confronted it gently over breakfast at a diner on Aurora. Eggs Benedict cooling untouched. What's wrong? Talk. Micah's confession spilled. The old wounds reopened, fear that history rhymed. I don't want to be the rebound or the fixer. Elias's eyes darkened with hurt. You're neither. But if you can't see that, maybe we pause. The pause stretched into days of radio silence, Micah burying in code and workshops, the studio echoing with solitude. Theo mediated over beers at the Elysian. He's scared too, you know. Give it air. A week in, Elias appeared at the youth center, not for Kai, but with a small oak box he'd carved, a keepsake for the group's art supplies, engraved with stories endure. For you, he said simply, no pressure. Micah's throat tightened. Thank you. Reconciliation brewed over a rainy picnic in Discovery Park. Blankets spread under madrona trees, thermos of soup steaming. Apologies layered like varnish. Micah for withdrawing, Elias for not sharing sooner. We build slow, Elias said, hand extended. Fingers intertwined, the pact sealed. Summer solstice brought a trip to the San Juan Islands. Ferry slicing through Salish Sea, orcas breaching in the distance. They kayaked coves fringed with arbutus, camped under a sky ablaze with stars, bodies entwined by firelight. Love-making there felt sacramental, barriers dissolving in salt air. Back in Seattle, Micah proposed the group expand, partnering with Elias's shop for woodworking therapy. The first session hummed with creation. Teens planing boards, metaphors of shaping selves. But autumn winds carried omens. Landon resurfaced at a tech mixer in Belltown, cornering Micah by the bar. You look good. Happy? His eyes flicked to the compass tattoo peeking from Micah's collar. Whoever he is, he's lucky. Micah's response was steel. I am. Yet, the encounter lingered. A bruise. Elias sensed it, drawing him out during a drive to Mount Si. Old flames flicker, he said. But ours burns steady. Micah leaned into that, but unease simmered. A misplaced phone call from an unknown number. Elias's ex, checking in as friends, fueled paranoia. Boundaries, Micah pressed later, voice edged. Elias agreed, but the air thickened, trust fraying at seams. As leaves turned crimson, the crisis crested. At Theo's harvest party in a Fremont loft, laughter flowed with mulled cider, but Micah overheard Elias on the balcony. Voice low. Yeah, it was intense. Missed the spark sometimes. Context lost, the words gutted. Confrontation erupted in the truck ride home, accusations flying like sparks. Am I just convenient? Micah demanded, tears hot. Elias's face crumpled. No, God, no. That was about work stress. But damage bloomed, a chasm widening. They parted that night with slammed doors, Micah fleeing to the studio, waves crashing like accusations. Days dissolved into numbness. Skipped workshops, code errors multiplying. Theo's tough love cut through. Run toward, not from. Micah reached out. A text. Can we fix this? Elias's reply. Trying to. Meetings followed. Coffee at Le Panier. Walks in Green Lake where ducks skimmed the surface like skipped stones. Honesty peeled layers. Elias's fear of repeating past mistakes. Micah's terror of abandonment. We're both scarred, Elias said, palm to palm. But together? Healing began in increments. Therapy sessions Micah started, unpacking the breakup's debris. Joint woodworking, hands guiding each other over lathes. Winter returned, softer now, snow dusting the sound like forgiveness. At Lambert House's holiday showcase, Kai's comic, featuring two figures bridging a divide, drew applause. Elias, in the audience, caught Micah's eye, pride shining. Yet, the true test loomed, unspoken. Endurance against the world's tempests. The new year dawned with tentative frost on the studio's windows, Micah tracing patterns in the ice while Elias slept beside him, breath steady as tide. Their reconciliation had forged something resilient, like oak tempered by fire. Conversations now laced with vulnerability. Plans sketched on napkins over brunch at Portage Bay Cafe, where pancakes stacked high as dreams. Micah's app launched to quiet acclaim, user testimonials pouring in about tracked moods turning tides. Elias's shop buzzed with commissions, a custom mantle for a Queen and Victorian drawing raves. Spring's thaw mirrored their thaw. Bike rides along the Sammamish River Trail, petals scattering like confetti under tires. Picnics in the Arboretum, where magnolias bloomed fat and white, their scent heady as hope. Intimacy rediscovered edges. Slow explorations in the workshop, Elias's calloused fingers mapping Micah's spine. Whispers of stay against skin. I choose you, Micah affirmed one dawn, lips brushing Elias's temple, the words a cornerstone. Community anchored them deeper. The expanded program at Lambert House thrived. Teens like Jordan carving pendants symbolizing rebirth, Kai illustrating a zine on queer kinship. Dana, the coordinator, nominated Micah for a local nonprofit award. The ceremony at City Hall a whirl of speeches and clinking glasses. Elias stood beaming in a tailored blazer, Rosa pinning a boutonniere of rosemary to his lapel. Proud doesn't cover it, he murmured during the applause, kiss lingering on Micah's cheek. But harmony harbored undercurrents. Landon's shadow lengthened with a chance encounter at Whole Foods in Interbay, bumping carts in the produce aisle, apples tumbling like accusations. Micah, Landon said, voice hushed, eyes tracing the changes. The relaxed set of shoulders, the silver band Elias had slipped on his finger months back, a promise ring etched with coordinates of their first hike. You're different. Micah's reply was measured, grown. Landon lingered, words tumbling. Regrets over the breakup. Therapy uncovering his commitment fears rooted in a father's abandonment. I see now what I lost. The plea hung, but Micah walked away, cartwheels echoing resolve. Elias, hearing of it later over gelato at a gelateria in Capitol Hill, squeezed his hand. Past is prologue. We're the story now. Yet, the brush stirred Micah's sleep, dreams of what-ifs tangling with reality. He doubled down on therapy, sessions in a cozy office overlooking Lake Washington, unpacking layers of self-worth tied to validation. You're enough, his counselor, a soft-spoken man named Raj, affirmed. Micah carried that like a talisman. Summer swelled with festivals. The folklife on the square, where they danced to fiddle tunes under the Space Needle, sweat slick and laughing. A weekend at Bumbershoot, indie bands thumping as they shared falafel and stolen kisses in the crowds. Elias surprised Micah with a trip to Portland, a nod to his Oregon roots, bookstores in Powell's Labyrinth, food carts steaming with bison burgers, a night at the Alberta Street Fair where street poets declaimed odes to love's wild geometries. There, amid the throng, betrayal's blade twisted anew. A call from Theo Midstroll through the Pearl District. Landon's been asking around about you, saying he wants back in. Micah's stomach nodded, the city's brick facades blurring. Elias, sensing, pulled him into a quiet courtyard fountain spray. Tell me. The confession poured, laced with fury, at Landon for dredging, at himself for the flicker of temptation. It's power play, Elias said, voice even. Don't let him script you. Back in Seattle, confrontation brewed. Micah met Landon at a neutral cafe in Fremont. The solstice rooms exposed brick a witness. Stop, he said flatly, over black coffee steaming. Landon's eyes, once home, now pleaded. I was wrong. Therapy helped. We could. Micah cut in, no.
You chose out.
I chose forward. Walking out into the bridge's shadow, liberation washed over him, cool as the canal below. Elias waited at the truck. No questions, just open arms. That night, they made love with urgency, reclaiming space, bodies a testament to chosen bonds. But crisis shadowed. Elias's ex, Sophia, reached out via email, innocuous at first, birthday wishes for Kai, then veering personal. Miss our talks. Coffee? Elias shared it immediately, deleting without reply, but Micah's trust quivered. Boundaries, he echoed old echo. Elias nodded, but tension hummed, a low frequency. Fall's palette deepened, pumpkins lining stoops in West Seattle. The workshop hosted a fall fair, Micah manning a booth with teen crafts, Elias demonstrating lathe work to crowds. Success buzzed, but a vendor's gossip. Sophia seen at a bar in Ballard, asking after Elias, fanned flames. Paranoia crept. Late texts dismissed as clients. Elias's phone face down during dinners. Trust me, he urged, but words alone frayed. The rupture came on a stormy November eve, wind howling off the sound. Micah, scrolling idly while Elias showered, glimpsed a message preview. Can't stop thinking about that night. Heart slamming, he confronted towel-clad Elias paling. It was one drink months ago, before us solid. I told her no, but the lie no omission gashed deep. You hid it, Micah accused, voice breaking. Like he did. Elias reached, but Micah recoiled. I need space. The door closed behind him, rain soaking through to bone. Theo's couch became refuge. Nights dissected over herbal tea. Betrayal's echo, fear's grip. He's not Landon, Theo reasoned. But pain doesn't discriminate. Elias's voicemails piled. Raw pleas, admissions of fear. Afraid of losing Micah, reverting to old silences. Micah listened in the dark, torn. A week in, Lambert House called Kai distraught, needing Micah. There, amid crayons and confessions, clarity sparked. Healing wasn't solitary. He texted Elias. Talk. Tomorrow. Green Lake Park at dawn. Mist rising from the water like breath. Words flowed halting. Elias's shame, Micah's wounds. I shut down, Elias owned. Won't again. Micah exhaled. Prove it. Open. A pact formed, weekly check-ins. Couples counseling with Raj's colleague. Hands clasped on the bench. Ducks quacking approval. The storm broke. Winter holidays approached, layered with intention. They hosted a solstice dinner. Theo, Rosa, Kai, even Javier with his shy smile. Feasting on tamales and gingerbread, stories circling like candles. Laughter healed, incremental as dawn. Yet, the arc bent toward climax. Life's script demanding reckoning. December's grip tightened. Fairy lights twinkling along California Avenue like hesitant stars. As Micah and Elias navigated their fragile rebuild. Counseling sessions in a sun-dappled office near the University District became ritual. Raj's counterpart, Lena, guiding with questions that peeled like bark. What does safety look like? Answers emerged halting. For Micah, transparency's light. For Elias, vulnerabilities carve. Dates recommenced, deliberate. Ice skating at the Winterfest rink downtown. Gloved hands linked as they wobbled on synthetic ice. Laughter echoing off the Olympic torch sculpture. The youth program flourished, holiday crafts filling the center. Ornaments whittled from pine scraps, symbolizing light in dark. Kai's gift to Micah. A comic panel of two figures mending a bridge. Hung on the studio fridge, a daily reminder. Work hummed too. Micah's app hit a milestone. Partnerships with clinics in Tacoma. Users' stories of reclaimed joy fueling his fire. Elias's shop expanded, hiring an apprentice from the program. A quiet trans kid named Sam who found solace in the lathe's hum. New Year's resolution. A road trip south, tracing the coast to Big Sur. Elias's truck loaded with coolers of sandwiches and playlists of Bon Iver ballads. Highway 101 wound through redwoods ancient as grudges. Their trunks scarred but standing. Campfires crackled under Pacific dusk, stories shared. Elias's abuela's tales of Santeria whispers. Micah's Boise boyhood biking empty lots dreaming of cities. One night, stars wheeling overhead, Elias pulled a small box from his pack. Not a ring, but a key, carved walnut smooth. To the shop. To us. Micah's yes was fervent. The lock clicking open new chapters. Spring bloomed defiant, tulips rioting in the woodland park garden. Their rhythm steadied. Morning texts with coffee emojis. Evenings cooking paella from Rose's recipe, saffron staining fingers gold. Intimacy reignited, tender. Baths drawn with eucalyptus, bodies soaking in steam-forged peace. "I see you," Elias would murmur, eyes locked, and Micah believed, the mirror reflecting wholeness. But undercurrents swirled. Landon's persistence morphed. Letters arriving at the youth center, handwritten pleas on linen paper. "Second chances define us." Dana intercepted one, brow furrowed. "Block him, Micah." He did, legally this time, a restraining order filed quietly at the courthouse. The act liberated, but stirred Elias's protectiveness. "He's toxic residue." Arguments flared briefly. Micah defending his empathy, Elias his boundaries. Resolved over walks in Carkeek Park, trains rumbling distant like passing storms. Sophia's shadow lengthened too. A chance meeting at the Fremont Sunday Market where she volunteered, her booth of handmade jewelry glinting. "Elias looks happy," she said to Micah, tone laced with something unnameable. "You both do." The exchange polite, but it gnawed, fueling a late-night spiral. Elias's phone history scrubbed clean, old photos deleted. "Paranoia?" he asked gently. Micah owned it, therapy unpacking the root betrayal's echo chamber. Summer's heat wave baked the city, ferries churning white wakes across a glassy sound. They escaped to Orcas Island, kayaking to turquoise inlets, snorkels revealing urchins like hidden hearts. There, on a pebble beach, Micah broached the future. Engagement? Someday? Elias's smile dawned slow. "When it feels right. No rush." The words soothed, but planted a seed, timing's delicate grain. Back home, crisis crested unbidden. At the shop's anniversary open house, crowds milling amid varnish-scented air, Landon appeared. Uninvited, eyes wild from the periphery. He cornered Elias by the display case, voice slurred from hidden flask. "You stole him. He was mine." Security, Sam, quick on feet, escorted him out, but the damage rippled. Micah, arriving late from a workshop, found Elias shaken, knuckles white on a chisel. He said, "Things about us not lasting." Rage and fear collided that night in the studio, windows rattling with a squall. "Why does he haunt?" Micah railed, pacing. Elias pulled him down. "Because you shine. But we're the light now." Sleep came fitful, dawn breaking with resolve. Police report filed, therapy doubled. Theo rallied, organizing a Fuck the Exes bonfire at Golden Gardens. Marshmallows toasting as they burned effigies of grudges. Paper hearts inscribed with fears, flames devouring. Healing accelerated. A couple's retreat in the Snoqualmie Valley, cabins nestled in ferns, workshops on communication like whittling, shaving excess to reveal form. Laughter returned, buoyant. Elias's terrible puns over Esmores, Micah's victory at Cornhole. "Team us," they toasted, clinking mugs. Fall whispered in with equinox winds, apples ripening in urban orchards. The program hosted a gallery show at a Georgetown gallery, teen works on reclaimed wood panels drawing collectors. Micah's speech, halting, heartfelt, spoke of fractures mended. "Art, like love, reclaims the broken." Elias's eyes, front row, brimmed pride. But the arc demanded depth. Elias's hidden health scare. A routine check revealing elevated pressure, whispers of family history with heart issues. He confessed over pie at a diner in Magnolia, fork pausing. "Scared me. Didn't want to burden." Micah's hand covered his. Partners carry. Tests followed, lifestyle shifts. Runs along the beach, kale smoothies choked down with grimaces. Vulnerability bonded them tighter, mortality's shadow sharpening joy. As leaves spiraled down, a letter arrived, not from Landon, but Elias's father, long estranged, postmarked from Philly. Reconciliation overtures, regrets over absent years. Elias read it aloud by the fire, voice cracking. Micah held space, the choice his alone. Maybe, Elias mused. With you beside. Winter's solstice neared, candles waiting to be lit, the journey curving toward unforeseen peaks. Solstice night enveloped Seattle in velvet dark, the longest night yielding to incremental light as Micah and Elias kindled their menorah on the balcony, flames dancing against the sound's ink-black expanse. Rosa joined, her stories of Puerto Rican Las Posadas weaving through the chill, tamales steaming in foil. Kai lit the shamash, his blue streaks faded to soft teal, declaring, "For new beginnings." The gathering swelled, Theo with his playwright bow, Javier bearing flan. Laughter a ward against the cold, toasts to endurance raised in mugs of spiked hot cocoa. Elias's response to his father's letter simmered, a pot on low boil. They drove east one gray afternoon, toward the Cascades foothills, to a cabin rented for reflection. Log walls scented with pine, a stack of books on forgiveness dog-eared. Elias paced the porch, snow flurrying soft. He left when Mom got sick, chose work over us. Micah listened, snow collecting on lashes. You don't owe reply, but if you want. Elias nodded, drafting words on ruled paper. Measured, open. The envelope sealed, a weight lifted, not gone but lighter. New Year brought momentum. Micah's app secured venture funding, a pitch in Sandpoint's gleaming offices sealing the deal with handshakes and champagne pops. Elias celebrated with a custom desk, walnut inlaid with hazelwood accents. Micah's eyes hue, delivered to the co-working space. Your command center, he grinned. Work's whirl spun them. Late dinners at Babar, faux broth soothing frayed nerves. Stolen weekends at the Olympic Peninsula. Tide pools teeming with anemone's gentle sway. Spring's riot of azaleas-blanketed Ravenna Park. Their walks there a liturgy of touch, fingers brushing, pauses for kisses under dogwoods. The youth program evolved, partnering with the Seattle Art Museum workshop. Teens' pieces exhibited in the lobby. Jordan's sculpture, a phoenix from driftwood, drew murmurs, his shy grin Micah's reward. You believed first, the boy said. Pride swelled, reciprocal. Intimacy flowered in quiet luxuries. A spa day at the Edgewater, robes soft as clouds, massages melting knots. Rooftop cinema at the Sorrento, blankets shared under moonlight, its hues mirroring their skin tones in the projector glow. Like us, Elias whispered, tender, fierce. Love's language deepened. Affirmations whispered in half-sleep. My north. Yet, fissures tested. Landon's restraining order violation, a package to the shop, innocuous trinket with a note. Remember us? Triggered alerts. Police visit followed. Landon tearful in cuffs, claiming harmless nostalgia. Court date loomed in June. Micah testifying in a stark downtown room. Voice steady. It ends here. Verdict. Probation, therapy mandated. Closure tasted metallic, but final. Elias's health stabilized. Meds and miles run along Discovery's beaches, knitting vigilance into habit. But Sophia's orbit tightened. A family event invite via Kai, declined politely, yet stirring Micah's vigilance. Old patterns? He probed over dinner at Canlis, city lights winking below. Elias sighed, fork to salmon. She's co-parenting. Boundaries hold. Trust exercised, muscles strengthening. Summer's zenith crested with a wedding. Their friends. A garden affair in the Butchert Gardens knockoff near Tacoma. Vows exchanged under arbors heavy with roses. Elias, best man. Speech heartfelt. Love's craft. Patient, deliberate. Micah, witnessing, felt the pull. Their own ceremony, perhaps on that Bainbridge ferry, reclaiming the route. He voiced it later in the truck humming home. Elias's hand squeezed. Soon, when stars align. Crisis brewed in autumn's hush, harvest moon gilding the sound. Elias's father arrived. Unannounced, suitcase in hand, Philly accent thick as fog. Dinner at Rose's turned tableau. Accusations aired, tears salting eras con Gandals. I failed. The man admitted, voice gravel. Elias's forgiveness came measured, a hug tentative. Micah mediated silently, his presence the glue. Post-departure, Elias collapsed into him. Exhausting, but right. The mending rippled, family fractures echoing their own. November rains lashed, mirroring turmoil. At the shop, a commission gone awry. Client rage over a flawed table, lawsuit threats, piled on Elias's pressures. He withdrew, snaps shortening over forgotten errands. Micah pushed, share the load. Explosion followed in the studio, words like hail. You don't get the grind. Elias stormed out, truck roaring into night. Silence stretched days. Micah adrift in code and counseling. Theo's counsel. Storms pass. Anchor deep. Elias returned, soaked and spent, on the doorstep. Sorry. Fear talking, losing the shop. Us. Embrace followed. Raw, admissions of burnout, plans for balance, shared bookkeeping, date nights enforced. Healing's path wound through Thanksgiving at Rose's. Table groaning with Pernil and Yucca. Gratitude circles binding. Kai's toast. To chosen families. Winter solstice circled back. Candles brighter. Lessons etched. But climax beckoned. The narratives peak sharp as evergreens against snow. Winter's mantle deepened. Hoar frost etching the studio's panes like lace as Micah and Elias leaned into winter's introspection. The city's pulse muffled under occasional snowfalls that blanketed Queen and Hill in hush. Counseling evolved to maintenance. Lena's office a touchstone for tune-ups. They practiced pause and pivot, breathing through triggers, redirecting to anchor phrases. We choose. Dates innovated. A virtual cooking class with a queer chef collective. Virtual screens shared as they mangled empanadas. Flour dusting noses in laughter. The youth program's year-end showcase packed the Georgetown Gallery. Walls alive with teen visions. Murals of intertwined roots. Sculptures of resilient forms. Micah emceed, voice carrying. From fragments, wholes. Applause thundered. Donors pledging. Kai's zine selling out. Elias, arm around Micah's waist in the crowd, whispered, your legacy. Pride intertwined with theirs, a chord of three. Elias's shop stabilized. The lawsuit dismissed as bluster. New clients streaming via word of mouth. Spring previewed in hothouse greens. Their ritual planting window boxes on the balcony. Lavender and mint, scents promising renewal. Road trip north to the San Juans again. This time with Kai and Sam. Kayaks slicing dawn waters. Laughter echoing off cliffs. Evenings by driftwood fires. Esmore sticky. Stories of futures sketched. College for the kids, expansions for the adults. Intimacy's flame steadied. Exploratory. Tantric workshops downtown. Breaths synced in dim studios. Quiet mornings where touch spoke volumes. No words needed. Home. Micah sighed into Elias's neck one dawn. The sound a harbor. Love's depth plumbed in letters exchanged. Elias's cursive confessions of awe. Micah's typed verses on grace. Yet, the climax crested unyielding. Life's drama peaking in late spring's bloom. Landon, probation fraying, escalated. A midnight call to Micah's cell, voice slurred and desperate. I can't without you. Ending it. Panic surged. 911 dialed. Police tracing to a Bellevue motel. Micah arrived with Elias, heart hammering as medics stabilized. Pills swallowed, stomach pumped. Hospital vigil stretched hours. Fluorescent hum relentless. Landon woke groggy, eyes meeting Micah's. Why'd you come? Micah's truth. Because humanity lingers. But love? That's gone. Elias's hand in his through the night. A vigil of presence. Dawn broke. Landon transferred to psych ward. Mandated hold. Micah's collapse followed in the truck. Sobs racking. I pitied him. But you. Elias held firm. We're solid. Therapy unpacked the mercy's toll. Boundaries as compassion. Not cruelty. Theo's barbecue that weekend. Ribs smoky. Became decompression. You saved a life. Hero shit. Summer solstice marked pivot. A proposal. Not grand but true. On the Bainbridge ferry at sunset. Deck rocking gentle. Elias knelt amid tourists oblivious. Ring simple, walnut band inlaid with hazel. Coordinates of their first market meet. Micah. Build forever with me? Tears blurred the Olympic silhouette. Yes, 1,000 times. Engagement bloomed in planning. Small ceremony at Discovery Park's lighthouse, guests intimate, Rosa officiating in blend of traditions, Tamalata pre-wedding, vows under Madronas. Rehearsal dinner at the workshop, tables planed smooth, toasts flowing like varnish. But betrayal's final lash. Wedding eve, Sophia appeared at Elias's door, tear-streaked. I lied about the drink. It was more. Forgive. Elias, stunned, called Micah immediately, confession spilling. Heart cleaved. Micah drove through rain-lashed streets, arriving to find Sophia departed. Elias pale. Before us deep. Ended it. Swear. Rage warred with reason, echoes of Landon, omissions sting. Why now? Micah demanded, voice fracture. Elias knelt, ring box open. Because truth's our vow. If you walk, I understand. Hours blurred in talk. Pain excavated, trusts rebuild assayed. Dawn found decision. Stay, but scarred wiser. We vow honesty, Micah said, ring reclaimed. Wedding dawned crisp, lighthouse beams sweeping as they exchanged bands. Guests cheers a chorus. Vows. In fractures we mend. In storms we stand. Honeymoon in Montana's glacier. Cabins amid peaks. Hikes to hidden lakes where water ran clear as absolution. Evenings stargazing, constellations mapping paths forward. Back in Seattle, life layered anew. App's national rollout. Shop's second location in Ballard. Programs grant for expansion. Years folded like well-worn maps. Adoptions considered. Kai's college send-off, Rosa's garden parties. Betrayals faded to footnotes. Healing's journey etched in laugh lines, silver threading hair. Micah, gazing at Elias one autumn eve, beach walk at golden hour, felt the humanism profound. Love not absence of pain, but presence through it. Chosen, crafted, enduring. In the end, after he left, Micah walked not alone, but beside one who saw his whole, scars and shine. And Landon, glimpsed years later at a pride march, downtown throng, caught their linked hands, eyes widening in that old cafe's shadow. He turned away, but Micah met Elias's gaze, walking on, the city's heartbeat their own.